Welcome to today's deep dive. I want you to start by picturing something in your mind's eye for a second.
A specific landscape, right?
Yeah, exactly. Imagine you are standing right in the middle of a vast, incredibly dramatic landscape. The air is crisp, the sky is wide, and, well, everywhere you look, there's just raw, untamed nature.
Huge, towering mountains on the horizon.
Right. Mountains, deep, winding gorges right at your feet, rushing rivers you can hear in the distance. But now I want you to imagine that those features were not shaped by slow, invisible tectonic plates over millions of years.
Which is how we usually think of it.
Exactly. Instead, imagine that this beautifully rugged landscape was carved out by ancient, raging jealousy and literal, devastating heartbreak.
It is a profoundly different way to look at the natural world.
It really is. That's the world we're stepping into today.
And it completely shifts your perspective on how we interact with geography. Today, we are immersing ourselves in an incredible piece of source material. We have excerpts and some really striking illustrations from a Maori folktale titled The War of the Mountains.
It's such an epic title.
It definitely delivers on the premise. It's a story that explains the physical layout of New Zealand's North Island, but it does so entirely through a lens of intense emotional drama.
Okay, well, let's unpack this, because what stands out immediately in these source texts is the sheer scale of the anthropomorphism.
Yes, exactly.
We aren't just looking at, localized animism where a tree or a stream has a little spirit.
Right, these are massive geological features.
Massive. They're operating with a volatile psychology of scorned lovers and loyal brothers. The mountains in this story are living, breathing gods.
With massive egos.
Oh, huge egos, deep insecurities, overwhelming desires. And as we will see, they have very human, very catastrophic flaws.
Absolutely.
My mission today is to take you on this epic journey, really exploring how this story blends that intense emotional drama with the literal formation of an island.
And the way the folktale maps onto the actual physical geography of the North Island is, well, it's what makes it so enduring.
It's so precise.
Yeah, it is. If you look at a map of New Zealand today, Mount Taranaki is this huge, striking volcanic mountain, and he stands completely isolated on the western edge of the North Island.
Just way out there on his own.
Exactly. He looks incredibly lonely out there, almost like he was exiled from the rest of the landmass.
Which is not a coincidence.
No. According to the myth, that isolation is entirely deliberate. He wasn't always out there on the coast by himself, just looking back toward the center of the island.
Right. Thousands of years ago, the landscape had a completely different dynamic. Taranaki used to stand right in the center of the action.
Shoulder to shoulder with the others.
Yeah. He was right next to his fellow volcanic mountain gods, Tongariro and Gauroho and Ruapehu.
The central peaks.
Exactly. These four massive volcanoes are described in the text as being like brothers. And they didn't just sit there silently, covered in snow, staring blankly at the sky. They lived.
They were highly active.
They were constantly interacting. The sources say they were hunting, feasting, fighting, and laughing together. Just picture that for a second.
It's a great visual.
Giant, towering volcanoes hanging out, laughing together. It is such a vibrant, chaotic image to just hold in your head.
It really emphasizes their vitality. And looking at the illustrations provided in our source material, that vitality is made visual in a very powerful, culturally specific way.
Those illustrations are gorgeous.
They are. The mountains are depicted not just as triangular peaks with snow caps, but they have these intricate, traditional Maori carved faces right on the mountainsides.
Oh, I couldn't stop staring at those.
It's reminiscent of tamoko, those deeply grooved, sacred facial tattoos that tell a person's lineage, status, and history. Seeing those deeply etched, swirling patterns on the faces of the mountains, it visually reinforces that these aren't just inanimate rocks.
Right, they aren't just scenery.
Exactly. They are ancestors. They have a lineage. They have eyes. They have expressions. They possess an immense ancient life force.
The carvings make the story feel so immediate and grounded. You can practically hear the rumble of their voices when you look at those faces.
You really can.
So we have this brotherhood of peaks living their absolute best lives right in the center of the volcanic North Island. They are loud, they're powerful, and they are united.
But peace is always fragile in these myths.
Oh, totally. As with any great drama, things have to go wrong. Enter Pahanga.
Ah, yes.
She is a mountain goddess, and she is entirely different from the brothers. The text describes her as being woodland cloaked.
Which is a beautiful contrast.
It is. Taranaki catches sight of her, and he's just floored. He marvels at her beauty. The source specifically mentions her dense forests, glistening streams, and powerful waterfalls.
The elemental contrast there is crucial to understanding the attraction.
How so?
Well, you have these four fiery, active, volcanic brothers. They represent raw, volatile earth and heat. And then you have Panga, who is defined by lush, thriving, life-giving nature, the forests and the water.
It's like opposites attracting.
Precisely. It's a classic pairing of opposing forces. The rugged, destructive fire of the volcano is inevitably drawn to the soothing, fertile green of the woodland. It's an attraction born out of a desire for balance.
And drawn to it he was. It was absolute love at first sight for Taranaki. He is completely enamored by this woodland-cloaked goddess.
But there's a catch.
A massive complication to this romance, yes. One that threatens to upend the entire geography of the island. Paihanga is married.
The classic mythological trope.
And not just to anyone. She is secretly married to Tongariro, one of Taranaki's closest, most powerful brothers.
Which is the ultimate betrayal in any social dynamic, let alone among ancient gods whose emotions dictate the stability of the earth itself.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. The tension is built right into the geography of the characters. You have these colossal figures standing in close proximity, and simmering underneath that closeness is a secret that could literally tear the ground apart.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Taranaki has absolutely no idea about the secret marriage.
He's totally clueless.
Completely in the dark. He doesn't see the danger he is walking into because he is, as the story perfectly puts it, sick with love.
I love that specific phrasing.
Me too. It implies the kind of fever, a delirium. He's so consumed by his infatuation that he starts weaving these elaborate romantic stories out loud.
Out loud.
Yes. He is daydreaming about this blissful future that he and Pahanga are going to have together.
Yeah.
He is essentially planning their lives out, imagining their union, completely oblivious to the fact that he is stepping on a massive, divine landmine.
That is the tragic flaw of being sick with love. It makes even an all-seeing God incredibly myopic.
He can't see past his own crush.
Right. He is so focused on the fantasy of the lush forests and glistening streams that he forgets the volatile nature of the company he keeps. And that landmine he steps on is, of course, Tongariro.
Who happens to be right there.
Exactly. Tongariro overhears Taranaki weaving these romantic fantasies about his wife, and you can just imagine the scale of the anger.
My mountain doesn't just get annoyed.
No, the fury is seismic. How dare Taranaki try to steal his beautiful wife from under his nose?
Wait, so Taranaki is just dreaming out loud. Does he not realize Tongariro is listening to every single word?
Apparently not.
It seems almost reckless for a being of that size to lack so much situational awareness.
That's precisely the point the myth is making about love and arrogance. Taranaki's desire blinded him to his surroundings. And what's fascinating here is how the source material describes Tongariro's reaction when the illusion shatters.
The text gets incredibly vivid here.
It does. The story details how the fire and brimstone deep within him flared up and spilled over, scorching the land all around him as he bellowed, "Stay away from my wife!"
That is so intense.
It is. And this is where the mythological narrative perfectly, seamlessly mirrors the geological reality of New Zealand. Tongariro's jealousy isn't just an emotional outburst. It is literally described as a catastrophic volcanic eruption.
So the eruption is the anger.
Exactly. The emotional rage of a betrayed god is the exact mechanism used to explain the fiery, destructive nature of an active volcano.
It's brilliant, intuitive storytelling. They're witnessing pyroclastic flows and interpreting them as the explosive jealousy of a husband.
It makes perfect sense when you see an eruption firsthand.
Taranaki, meanwhile, is completely shocked by the outburst. He suddenly finds out the love of his life is secretly married to his brother. But because he is a proud god, and because that fever of being sick with love hasn't broken, he doesn't just apologize and back down.
He doubles down.
He absolutely does. He feels he must fight for her. He believes his love is strong enough to challenge the marriage. And so the ultimate clash begins. The literal War of the Mountains.
The source illustration for this battle is incredibly dynamic and violent. It shows these two massive, carved mountain faces locked in a brutal conflict.
Just going at it.
And they aren't just bumping into each other like a wrestling match. They're hurling massive, glowing, fiery rocks through the air at one another.
The visual of that is staggering.
The sky and the artwork is choked with red and orange projectiles, ash and smoke. The battle is said to have raged for many days and nights, plunging the land into darkness and chaos.
It sounds like the end of the world.
Again, mapping this to geography, we are looking at a mythological explanation for a prolonged, violent volcanic event, one where magma, ash plumes, and volcanic bombs are being violently ejected across the landscape.
It is an apocalyptic scene. You have to imagine the noise, the shaking earth, the absolute terror of anything living nearby while these two brothers tear each other apart over Paanga.
It would have been terrifying.
But ultimately, Taranaki cannot hold his ground. After days and nights of hurling fiery rocks, Taranaki is defeated. And this is where the tone of the deep dive completely shifts.
The aftermath is quite different.
Yeah, we move away from this explosive, aggressive action movie into a deeply poignant, quiet tragedy. Taranaki realizes he is lost, and he is forced to retreat.
The physical toll of the battle on him is immense, but the narrative focuses just as much, if not more, on the emotional toll.
Right, it's not just a physical defeat.
He isn't just physically bested. His spirit is entirely broken.
Yes, the text says he retreats with a bruised heart. I just want you to pause and think about that phrase for a second.
A bruised heart.
We are talking about a massive, towering god of stone and fire, a being capable of hurling magma into the stratosphere, reduced to having a bruised heart. It is such a fragile human image applied to an indestructible force of nature.
It grounds the myth in something we all understand.
He's defeated, he has lost the woodland-cloaked woman he loved at first sight, and he has completely alienated his brothers. He has absolutely nothing left for him in the center of the island.
So he has to leave.
So he turns his back on everything he knows, and he begins this lonely, agonizing exile, moving away across the North Island.
This retreat is arguably the most geographically significant and emotionally resonant part of the folktale.
The journey to the coast.
Yes. As Taranaki flees toward the western edge of the island, he isn't simply walking away. He is completely exhausted, weighed down by grief. He is dragging his immense weight.
It's a heavy burden.
The text describes him as dragging his heavy, battle-scarred body through the landscape. Think about the physical mechanics of that.
A million-ton god.
The colossal, defeated million-ton god dragging himself across the earth. As he pulls his massive form westward, he literally gouges the land, carving out a massive, deep gorge behind him in the dirt and rock.
It is such a visceral, painful image. You can almost feel the weight of his sorrow pressing down into the dirt, tearing the earth open.
And the myth doesn't stop there.
No, it doesn't end with just a dry, jagged canyon. As he is dragging himself, completely heartbroken and alone, his bitter tears flowed endlessly.
The scale of that grief.
Imagine the sheer volume of water here. The grief is so profound, and he is weeping so heavily that these bitter tears literally pour down and fill the massive, battle-scarred channel he had just carved into the earth.
And that becomes the river.
That, according to the source material, is how the great Whanganui River was created.
The synthesis of the emotional and the physical in that moment is truly remarkable.
It really is.
The Whanganui River isn't just a body of water in this context. It is the liquid manifestation of a god's sorrow. The deep gorge isn't the result of slow water erosion over millennia.
It's a scar.
Exactly. It is a permanent, violent scar left by a heavy, defeated body being dragged in disgrace. It transforms the way you look at a map or the way you experience the river if you are standing on its banks.
You're walking on history.
Every bend in that river, every rapid, is a testament to Taranaki's bitter, agonizing journey away from his home and the woman he loved.
It makes you want to treat the landscape with so much more reverence. You aren't just looking at hydrology, you are looking at materialized grief.
That's a great way to put it.
So he drags himself all the way to the coast, leaving this river of tears behind him. He finally comes to a small peninsula near the sea on the far western edge of the island.
He can't go any further.
He is exhausted beyond measure. He settles down to rest, to finally stop moving, and as he sleeps, something profound and permanent happens. The ground literally grows around him.
The earth takes him in.
The earth rises up and embraces him, rooting him to the spot.
He becomes a permanent fixture of the western edge, locked into the geography we recognize today.
And he is left there with this incredibly mournful description. The story concludes his journey by stating, "And there he stays, many miles from his former friends, all alone."
It's a sad ending.
It is just devastating. The once vibrant brother, who used to feast and laugh and hunt in the center of the island, is now locked in solitary confinement on the edge of the world, staring out at the Tasman Sea.
But the narrative doesn't end in the ancient past, tucked away in a history book.
That's true. It carries on.
The source material brings this emotional arc right up to the present day, which is what makes it a living myth, rather than just a historical artifact. The emotions of these gods are still active, still shaping the world.
Right. Because even though he is rooted to the spot, Encased in the earth, Taranaki hasn't moved on emotionally. Time hasn't healed his bruised heart.
He's still waiting.
He still, to this very day, yearns for Pahanga. He sits out there on the peninsula, looking back toward the center of the island, wishing that one day he might break free and return to her side.
Which brings us to today.
So what does this all mean? How does a mythological yearning from an ancient story affect the real world today?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it has direct, tangible implications for how people live their lives in New Zealand right now.
It's not just an old tale.
No, this isn't just a story told to children at bedtime. It informs urban planning and cultural boundaries. Because of this enduring myth, many Maori tribes actively avoid living around the immediate base of Mount Taranaki.
They stay clear.
They don't view him as a dormant geological feature or a playground for hikers. They view him as a sleeping, heartbroken god who is biding his time, simmering with unresolved tension.
And you definitely don't want to be in the way when a heartbroken, humiliated god decides he's had enough of waiting and wants a rematch.
You really don't.
The cultural practices are very clear about the threat. The tribes respect this danger zone around the mountain, specifically because they fear the moment he might wake up.
The awakening.
They fear he might one day decide to heave up his great rocky body, rip himself out of the earth that rooted him, and drag himself all the way back to his former home to reclaim Pahanga.
And if a mountain the size of Taranaki were to uproot itself and drag itself back across the North Island toward Tongariro, the devastation would be unimaginable.
That would be catastrophic.
It would be an extinction-level event for the region. The narrative plainly states he would be destroying everything in his path.
Just wiping it out.
So the cultural practice of avoiding the base of the mountain isn't just superstition. It is a sign of immense respect for the power of that mythology. It is a geographical caution born out of a profound understanding of the landscape's volatile history.
They know the land they live on.
Exactly. They know they live on a volcanic plateau. They know the earth can open up and destroy them. The myth encodes that survival knowledge into a story about respecting a sleeping giant's space.
It's the ultimate form of boundary setting. You respect the heartbreak, you respect the raw power of the earth, and you give the giant, jealous volcano his space.
It's very practical when you think about it.
I just love how this deep dive ties everything together so beautifully. We've gone from a band of laughing brothers sharing a vibrant life to a tragic love triangle born of a woodland goddess.
To an apocalyptic battle that scorched the earth.
Yes, and finally to a weeping retreat that literally scars the ground and forms a rushing river. The War of the Mountains is a breathtaking example of how Maori folktales seamlessly weave the most intense, relatable human emotions. Love, jealousy, betrayal, and heartbreak.
Right into the physical world.
Into the literal physical creation of the world around us. It explains the rivers, the gorges, and the exact placement of the volcanoes on the North Island, all without losing the emotional core of the characters.
It truly is a masterclass in storytelling as a means of understanding the environment. It ensures that the geography is never seen as static, dead rock, but as a continuous living record of divine history and emotion.
The living record, I love that.
This raises an important question, something for you to think about long after we wrap up today. Think about the fault lines, the valleys, or the rivers near where you live right now. We often look at them merely as geographic data or scenery.
Just background noise.
Right. But if a single mountain's heartbreak can create a mighty river and completely reshape an entire island, what other epic, hidden histories of love, loss, and ancient battles might be standing quietly in the natural landscapes you walk past every single day?
What a perfect thought to end on. I know I'm never going to look at a mountain range or a winding river exactly the same way again. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the War of the Mountains. We hope it sparked your curiosity, challenged your perspective on the natural world, and encourages you to keep looking at the landscape around you with fresh, wide-open eyes. Until next time, keep exploring.